I did have. I did remember one thing though.
Oh, wait, let me start off by.
Are you?
This is.
Is this thing running now?
Yeah. Sure is.
What do you mean it's running? You didn't tell me it was running.
I just turned it on.
You just turned it. Okay. Yes. Now, you were saying.
I have to mark this. It's April 13th, 1995.
Okay.
We're on Fell Street in San Francisco. You're just back from the Amazon.
Time is 11:30. Is that what you got? Got a new watch.
Pacific time. And got a sexy new watch. Oh, another new watch. God, every day it's a new
You're
watch.
gonna give me back the other watch that you don't like.
Mm-hmm.
That I sent you, that I went to all that trouble to get for you and sent you.
I know precisely where it is.
And you did. All right.
So, question I'm posing to you.
My father never sent me a watch. I can tell you that. He never sent me a watch unasked for or anything else, simply because. Simply because he saw it, liked it, and thought you'd enjoy it. He never
Well,
did that.
what did he give you?
What did my father give me? Well, I have to think about that. I can't remember. Well, he did.
Must have given you
I
something.
tell you, one of the things he did give me. I mean, he's given me a lot of things, of course. He gave me my first bicycle. My first bicycle.
What did it look like?
It was not like any bicycle that you can get today. It had little wheels. I mean, my first.
Is this a tricycle or what?
No, this is a two-wheeler, Jay. A two-wheeler. But it didn't have big wheels like you see today. It had little wheels. And it was maroon. And it was the biggest excitement that I can remember. I mean, having that little bike freed me from captivity. I was suddenly a totally free person. I was about 6 or 7 years old.
7 years old.
Maybe not that.
Did you feel like a captive?
No, but you do suddenly feel, like
Emancipated.
you can get around. You can do things. You can go from your lane to Mike's lane in like 30 seconds, 40 seconds.
It's like the dawn of transportation.
Well, I remember we lived on Nikari Boulevard, in an apartment. I was in we lived on the 4th floor, which was the top floor. The top floor. And we had a gang of kids, and all the kids had a bike. And, I didn't have...
Were you leader of the pack?
No, wait. The leader had big responsibility. He had to lead a gang of ruffians, young ruffians, and I was certainly not the leader of the pack. But, I was, pretty much my own man. Especially when I had my bike.
We're talking about when you're 8 years old, Dad.
No, I think I was...
This is a little older.
No.
How many in your gang?
How many in my gang?
No, when you were in your gang, you must have been older.
No. No, I lived on Nikari. I mean, I was 5 years old, 6 years old. So I couldn't have been, the bike, I must have got the bike when I was around 5 or 6.
So it's like a motorcycle gang except with a bike.
Tough kids.
Kind of like West Side Story, right?
I'll tell you how tough, you know about my mother's brother, right? My mother's brother, the Racco, Charlie.
No, I know nothing about Charlie. But do tell.
My mother's brother, who was my uncle, he was was a juvenile delinquent. I mean, he was like a bad egg. And
So what are you saying? It runs in the family?
no, I don't think it does at all. I don't think it does. But he was a bad egg. He was just like he didn't work out very well. And he went into the rackets. He was, in fact, he was a strong arm, like one of the strong arms of one of the gambling rackets that was in Montreal. And he would, I guess, if somebody needed their leg broken, he might be doing this. I mean, I don't know.
He was like one of the
He was a muscle man.
hitmen.
Yeah, one of the hitmen. That's right.
You're kidding me.
And what happened? I mean, he ultimately was murdered. He was murdered.
You're joking.
No. This is true. He was murdered.
At what age?
I guess he was in his. He was in his late 20s, early 30s when he was murdered. And I mean, I wasn't. He was about 4 years older than I was, and I was away at school. I think I was at Syracuse University.
This is your mother's
My mother's brother.
brother.
Yes. Was
And he's
about-
4 years older than you.
He was about 4 years older than I was.
Oh,
He was
wow.
very young. He was my uncle. Like, this was an uncle that it was hard for me to
To look up to.
to look up to. There was no reason. My parents gave me no reason to look up to him, and his behavior wasn't anything. But he could have been a hero because he was a very strong, very athletic kid, and he could have been like somebody I would admire. But he was just a bad egg.
And is there, did anyone attribute why he went so rotten, this bad egg? Did anyone know why?
Well, it could have been
From
because-
whence this evil came?
Well, my grandmother, like my mother's mother, that's the grandmother. She was she was a pretty rough character. Like I can remember.
What was her name?
I have no idea. She was a grandmother to me. She was nothing.
You don't know what your grandmother's name was?
No, I don't know what my father's mother's name was either.
Like,
I don't know. We weren't a close family, to say the least.
apparently.
Um,
But what were you going to say about her? She was a ruffian herself.
She was rough. She was rough. Because I remember very clearly, and like every once in a while, once in a blue moon, once every 10 years, I get to tell this story about my grandmother got upset with Charlie. And she wanted him, it was Passover. It was Passover. And I was there at the house, and they were preparing for Passover. And Charlie did something, like he took something to eat off a plate before it was supposed to be. He did something which he should not have done. I don't know how serious it was, but I do remember my grandmother picked up a knife. Like I'm talking about, in those days, like big carving knife, big blade, large, wide blade, as well as being long. And she was swinging at him with this, and he was running. He was running, like he was running for his life. At least I thought he was running for his life. But she had a very deft wrist action, and what she intended to do, I know this, what she intended to do was to slap him
On
with
the side.
with the side of the blade. I mean, she wasn't going to cut off his legs or anything like this, but to me, it was a very real possibility. This could happen. And so I mean, this grandmother never took her place in my life as, you know, like a sweet little old lady.
I guess not.
Because I still have that picture of her in my mind, of my uncle scampering around the house, running for his life.
Well, that could have been a turning point for him.
Well, no, there were other turning points.
I'm sure there were many other times, but
Actually,
a mother like that.
so,
How did Kate turn out so sweet?
well, Kate was sweet to her grandchildren.
And in what respect was she not sweet to her?
Well, it wasn't that she was not sweet, but
I seem to recall some baseball bat stories with her. Wasn't there something about you put something in the laundry that you shouldn't have, or some laundry story, and then she came at you with a baseball bat? Something like that.
no,
Does that ring a bell at all?
no, I think that the unkindest treatment that I ever had from my mother was when I came home. I was late, and I had made arrangements with my mother, something that I didn't do properly. I wasn't there when I should have been, and although it was of some significance, it wasn't serious. But my mother lost. She lost control, and
Blue Gasket.
she started smack. You see, this idea of, you know, like violent kind of discipline was not far, because my mother had the same. You know, this grandmother was my mother's mother,
Yeah.
so she was a role model. But my mother was, you know, like a today woman. So instead of using a knife, she just, you know, replaced the knife with her hand or her fingernail. Anyway, she really started spanking me, like, but it was never like a spanking under control. Like, you're gonna sit still, you're gonna lie over my knee, and I'm gonna slap your bum. You know, it was never anything like that. It was like wild, look out, look out. Anyway.
A brawl.
She got very violent. She got really violent and scratched my face and
Really?
yeah. And I went. I was really offended by this violence.
How old were you at the time?
I must have been about 6 or 7. We had moved to Coolbrook. We were living on Coolbrook at this time, and I was so offended that I waited outside on the steps for my father to show up, because I was going to tell my father on my mother.
Sounds dangerous.
It wasn't good. It didn't work out too well. But nevertheless, successful snitching, you know, wasn't my forte. I was just so insulted by the way she handled the situation.
And when Dad came home,
When Dad came home and I told Dad about it, and then I got another beating.
you're kidding me.
Telling Dad about it.
What, from Dad or from Mom?
Not from Dad. My father never.
He wasn't the type.
Thank goodness for that. Actually, he was not violent. He was totally not violent. My father was a nice guy. He was a nice.
Was he?
Yeah, he was a nice guy. He tried hard. He worked hard.
He was in the schmata business.
He was in the schmata business. My father was. He worked for a shirt manufacturing company, the biggest in Canada. He was the sales manager.
Yeah, I'm afraid you're gonna have to speak up.
He was the sales manager, for heaven's sakes, and you know that anyway. Anyway,
Not for me, for the microphone.
I'm sure that this is not going to carry my voice at all. Voice is going to be a problem, but sound has always been your problem.
It's a problem. Sound is a problem with non-professional equipment. It really is. But anyway, so he was working for a shirt manufacturer.
Yeah. And then, and he worked for them for quite a while, and then he was the sales manager. He had a very important job. And then when the war came in 1940, at the end of the war, towards the end of the war, my father had developed contacts.
He was both too old to be in the war, and you were too young to be in the war. Of
Exactly.
course. Right? You were only like 15.
When the war
When the
started
war broke
in
out?
1940,
14.
and I was born. The war started in 1940.
You were 10 years old.
1914, Jay was like another
Oh,
generation or two
Oh, that war.
before me. But the war,
No,
the
1945.
Second World War started in
1941.
40.
Right.
And I was 10.
Yeah.
I was 10, 11. Okay?
11 years old.
And it finished in 1944, 45.
And at the time, your dad was over the hill to be called to war at that time.
Yeah, well, he was born in 1908.
And there were people in Canada being called to war.
Oh, sure. Sure. But so he was like totally undesirable. Like he was too old, and he was about as non-athletic as you can get. I mean, he loved sports and things like that. He was a great sports fan. He was really a fan
Of hockey. What was he a fan of?
Hockey, baseball, everything. We had the Montreal Royals, Jackie Robinson.
Montreal Royals.
The Montreal Royals.
Who were they?
Triple A.
Oh, Triple A.
Yeah. And Jackie Robinson played for the Montreal Royals. I mean, that was the greatest excitement of all time for baseball in Montreal. Certainly the Expos aren't. But the Expos last year could have been. They just sold they got rid of $8 million of overhead by giving up 3 of their best ball players.
Yeah.
So like
it's not a great.
So it's not excitement for next year. But
anyway, we were talking about your dad working at. The war started, and then what?
The war started. My father was working at Took Brothers, and the problem was getting material to manufacture shirts.
Mm-hmm.
And my father established contacts in the United States, because the Americans didn't enter the war right away.
Right.
So my father made these contacts, and he was getting shipments of the shirting goods from the States, and he became a big favorite of these people that were selling the materials from, really most of the outlets were in New York City, and would ship it from New York. I mean, the mills were not necessarily in New York City, but the people that sold the fabric were the agents. Anyway, so he had all these wonderful contacts, and towards the end of the war, he met an Englishman. What was his name?
Now he was still working for someone else at that
He was
point.
working for Took Brothers.
But when did he broke away and he was on his own, started his own thing?
Yeah.
That was shortly after the war.
Yeah.
That he started his own thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was because those contacts were very important. You still had shortages even after the war, and now we're talking like 46, 47, 48 in that period of time. And he started in partnership with Sam Beckman. Sam Beckman was the guy's name. An Englishman, nice guy, who really liked my father. He was a very, very wealthy man, and he was putting up the money.
He was the backer.
He was the backer. My father had the contacts for the raw materials, and had the contacts for selling, because because he knew everybody who used shirts in Canada. He had contacts with everybody, and they all bought from him.
Mhm.
Because out west and here, and there was sort of, he was a very popular guy among in this trade, and they all loved him. And so when he went into this partnership with Sam Beckman, it was to manufacture men's shirts, and they were called Migo. It was called Migo shirts, and he opened up a big plant. It was a going concern. It was a really...
And now, you're talking about your father opened up his own plant.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
His own factory with
Manufacturing men's shirts.
with staff of
Lots.
50.
Well, my
100.
father, you see, when it came, this is
big time.
but this is his failing. You see, like his tragic failing.
Where was his family? Where did he go
His
wrong?
tragic failing was that he didn't know that he didn't know. He didn't know that he couldn't do something. He thought he could do everything. So he thought that he could establish this plant,
Mhm.
sell the shirts, and run the factory, but know what to do. He didn't know what to do. So he should have probably broken up the responsibility.
So he was a good salesman,
That's what he was.
but he needed to hire a hatchet man.
He needed to hire somebody who knew the manufacturing process and watched it very, very carefully. And instead, well, he hired somebody to do it. It was my aunt's, my mother's sister's husband, who was going to oversee most of this. But he didn't know. But like there was a relationship there, and my father kept hiring people. And there were always people that he had some kind of a contact with. He would hire kids from the area where he grew up, you know,
Mhm.
because he grew up in a very, well.
So how did the business go awry?
Well, a couple of the kids that he hired, you know, like who came from the area where he had grown up, were working in the shipping room. And they didn't ship for the company. They shipped for themselves. They would like have 2 trucks. They'd load up 2 trucks, one for the orders that my father had, and another one which was for them to sell on the black market. Couldn't get
Oh
it.
no.
Anyway, so they managed to really, they depleted the business to the point where it was, you know, went into bankruptcy.
And he didn't catch this?
He caught them. He didn't do anything particular. He wouldn't send, you know, like he didn't call the police. He didn't do anything that was, it was just one of those things. These were kids that he knew and blah, blah, blah. And there was that, and I'm sure that there was many other things. The business wasn't run efficiently. Although in those days you didn't have to run the business efficiently, because all you had to do was put something together, call it a shirt, and you could sell it.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, so
But for a while it was prospering.
it was very prosperous. Come on, my father's brothers were trying to get him to sell the shirts to them, and they will sell it on the black market.
Your father's brothers.
Yeah,
How
my
many
father.
brothers did he have?
He had 4 brothers. He had
4 brothers?
He had 4 brothers. He was
Any
one of
sister?
5. No.
Just 5 brothers altogether.
5 brothers. Those half brothers. Those half brothers grew up and did exactly the same kinds of things that the Steinberg brothers did. The Steinberg thing, and they lived in the same area. I remember the grocery store on St. Lawrence
Mm-hmm.
where the Steinbergs started, where it began, all began. Anyway, they never. My father's 5 brothers. They were all leaders. There was no followers. There was no followers. So nothing happened with them. Anyway, that's
Nothing happened with them. No one
well,
is of
one
any
of them,
notoriety. or-
one of them. Wait, let's go back. I was talking about my mother's brother,
Yeah. Charlie.
Charlie. Right. So, Charlie,
The delinquent.
he was a delinquent, and then he was hired to do, like strong arm goodies for the rackets in Montreal, and he did all of that, and then he got married. He married, I don't know, a sleazy, slutty woman, and I think she was either a prostitute. I'm not sure. He's my uncle. I want to be nice to him.
Remember, I'm recording this, Dad.
Well, what can I tell you? I think that, what happened was that one day he was sitting in a club,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the rackos from another gang came over and made a pass at his wife, because he had known her from another life.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, she didn't have a great reputation, put it that way. She probably wasn't a prostitute. I'm sure she wasn't. But Charlie got very, very offended by all this, and beat him up. And that started a whole vendetta kind of relationship with one gang and another.
He was a big guy, I take it.
Well, he wasn't really big, but he was very strong and very agile. I mean, he wasn't very tall.
Kind of like the rest of the heft men.
He wasn't heft. He was a Wagner. He was my mother's.
Wagner.
He was my mother's brother.
Maybe at this juncture we can get kind of an overview. We have the Wagners, who is your mother's side, and she had one brother, which was Charlie,
No.
right?
No, she had Max
Oh,
Wagner,
nice.
who's the other brother, and she had a sister Dora and a sister Minky. I think there was another brother who died. There was a third brother.
Pretty big family.
Yeah.
But 5 of them all together?
Mm-hmm. And my father had 4 brothers, and I think there was one that died there as well. Okay, he had 4 brothers.
And what were your, on your father's side, what were his parents like? Do you remember?
I think my grandfather on my father's side died in 1930, 1929, 1930, which is
The year you were born.
Yeah. So I think that's what happened there.
And what about your grandmother?
And my grandmother couldn't speak English. She spoke Yiddish.
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 They were from Poland then,
Yeah.
right?
They were Romanian, and my mother's side was Polish. They were Romanian.
So, was it your father's parents who came over from Romania?
My
They
father
came
was
over-
born here. My father was born
Born in Montreal.
in Montreal. Yeah. My father was born, I was a second generation Canadian.
Mm-hmm. And they came directly from Romania to Montreal?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why, do you know why they came to Montreal? Why not the States? Why not New York? Why not?
Well, I think that there were family connections, family reasons why they would come to Montreal. And a lot of the immigrants who came here, I mean, we're talking about probably coming in 1920. I don't even know. Well, wait a second. My father was born here. He was born in 1908. So they came here, and he was born here.
Mm-hmm.
So So they were coming here like around the turn of the century.
Practically pioneers.
Practically pioneers. Very, you know, like they came with a lot of other Jewish families. But the others, you know, like...
At the time, what was happening in Romania? Why did they leave?
the history of that...
You don't know.
I don't know.